Hey everyone, it's Kenji, and I'm gonna make a BLT. So this is my favorite sandwich. Honestly, it's good any time of the year, but during the summer is when it's best, because that is when tomatoes are at their best, especially if you get your tomatoes either from your backyard or from your neighbor's backyard. These tomatoes are from my neighbor, Alana, who you will see right here.
Hi, I'm Alana, Kenji's neighbor. I have chickens and I grow tomatoes.
And then this bacon is actually from a friend of mine, Jesse, bacon dealer. He makes this bacon at his house.
Hey, I'm Jesse Lindemann, a friend of Kenji's. I make bacon and a ton of other stuff in this smoker. You can follow me on Instagram, bacon.dealer.
So BLT, one of those things where the quality of the ingredients really makes a difference because there are so few ingredients and they vary so much in quality. So the most important thing to have in a BLT is a good tomato, because I strongly believe, and you may disagree with me on this, but I strongly believe that a BLT is not a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. It's not a bacon sandwich with tomatoes. It's actually a tomato sandwich that is seasoned with bacon. And once you start with that premise, and everything else kind of follows. All right, so I got bacon going over relatively low heat. This is a cast iron pan that was preheated quite well. I let it sit there preheating for about 10 minutes over low heat. And now I'm gonna go nice and low and slow so that it renders nicely and crisps up evenly. That's really the key to bacon. Now the other ingredients we got are these tomatoes. This is a Dixie Gold, and this is a Purple Cherokee. These are, actually this one is from the farmer's market, and this one is from my neighbor Alana's backyard. Both of them are great. This lettuce is also from Alana's yard. Actually, well, this lettuce is from Alana's yard. This lettuce is from the farmer's market. Everything is local. You know, with tomatoes, you really want to get the best tomatoes possible, and that means getting them from the farmer's market, or if you can grow them yourself, even better. Because the thing with tomatoes is that when you buy them from the supermarket, usually they are picked when they're underripe, when they're very green, because they need to be shipped. And jostling a nice juicy tomato around in the back of a truck being shipped is going to squash it. So they pick the tomatoes underripe, and then they ship them while they're still green, and they gas them with a gas called ethylene, which is it's a gas that's naturally produced by ripening vegetables, and it causes them to ripen further. But what they do is they take green tomatoes and they artificially ripen them so that they look nice and red, but they don't have the flavor that a tomato grown in your backyard can get. A tomato that's mostly ripened on the vine. It doesn't have to be ripened completely on the vine, but it has to get most of the way there for you to really get the maximum flavor out of it. Okay, so great tomatoes, great lettuce. This is bread that I got from, this is shokupan, which is a Japanese style milk bread. You can use any kind of sliced bread you want. You can use sourdough if you want, but I really enjoy shokupan because I think it toasts up really nicely. It's probably just biased because it's the kind of bread my grandmother had growing up. And then the last thing we're gonna do is make some mayonnaise. So these are eggs, also from my neighbor Alana's backyard flock. You can use Hellmann's. If you're in the South, you probably swear by Duke's. You can use store-bought mayo just fine. It's not a problem. But if you can make it fresh, it's quick enough. It's really quick and easy. It'll take less than a minute, honestly. So here I got my whole egg in there. I put a couple cloves of garlic in just because I want that garlic flavor. You don't have to have the garlic. The juice of a lemon. Oops, I gotta fish that out later. Now the real key though is that you have an immersion blender and you have a jar that just barely fits the head of it. So if you can't do it in a big wide space, you need the volume. You need to have a bit of height in there, which is why the head needs to just barely fit in there for this to work. And then we're gonna add oil. This is rice bran oil, but you can use canola, vegetable, any kind of neutral oil is fine. I'm gonna add about a cup of it in here to get it started. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish it the rest of the way with some of this rendered bacon fat. Let's see how that bacon's doing. I begin to bake too dark. Yeah. It's looking perfect. Some people like their bacon a little bit sort of, with that sort of tender chew to them. I like my bacon crispy all the way. especially in a BLT, because I don't like it kind of pulling out in the middle of the sandwich. All right, so we're gonna take some of this bacon fat. Let me get a, what am I gonna pour it into? Some of that bacon fat. And we're gonna add it to our mayonnaise here. Baconaise. Okay, so watch this. So I'm gonna turn this on, high power, and if all goes right, it's gonna turn into mayonnaise right before your very eyes. Ready? And we're gonna slowly pull this up. Perfect. Maybe a little bit more oil. All right, and that's how you make mayonnaise. We'll taste it for seasoning. Probably not gonna need too much salt because that bacon fat probably has some salt in it, but no, need some salt. Mmm. Let's pull the salt over here. So when you're making mayonnaise, you can make it the traditional way, which is where you whisk the egg yolk and you slowly trickle the oil in. The idea is that you're building an emulsion, and the egg yolks have emulsifiers in them, lecithin, and that's what kind of helps the fat in the oil and the water and the egg yolk mix together and form a stable emulsion. So you can do it the old-fashioned way, or you can just do it with a hand blender like this. And the reason why you need this narrow thing is that because you need to create this sort of vortex, because you want the oil to slowly get sucked down into the egg yolk as you're whisking it. If there's too much space in there, it doesn't emulsify and your mayonnaise will come out kind of runny, and it will separate over time. When you do it right, it comes out nice and thick and, well, with like a mayonnaise texture. Delicious. All right, so now we got our bacon fat mayonnaise. I'm gonna take this bread, get our bacon out, and I'm gonna first dip it, just get the rest of that bacon fat onto it. We don't want to waste any of that bacon flavor. Okay. And then I'm going to take my bacon mayonnaise, spread a very thin layer on one side. Okay. I'm just going to pop it in the toaster. You could do it in the pan. I'm just going to do it in the toaster today because that pan is not quite big enough for 2 of these slices of bread, and I didn't feel like heating up my bacon seal today. All right, so we're going to let that toast, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the camera like this, and then uncover it again, and the bread's done. Okay, so we got that sort of toasty bacon flavor built in on one side. By the way, if you're only using homemade mayo, store-bought mayo, what you can do is just dip the bread in the bacon fat, and you can toast it in the bacon fat directly on the skillet, or you could dip it in the bacon fat and then put it in the toaster. So I'm going to put that bacon fat on the inside, and just the toasted part on the outside so that my fingers don't get super greasy. And now, here's how I like to construct my BLT. I think it's really important to have direct contact between the mayo and the tomato. Tomato mayo toast. After the BLT, just plain tomato mayo toast is probably my second favorite sandwich, which is just a piece of toast with mayonnaise and tomato on it. But I think that combination of mayonnaise and tomato is super, super important here. You need direct mayo to tomato contact. All right, so we got our mayo on both sides, and we also need direct bacon to mayo contact, I feel. So we're gonna shingle on our bacon here. That one guy, that little bit's a little darker than I wanted it, but it's all right. I can tell, I know I'm going to read some comments saying, hey bro, you burned the bacon already. That's fine. You can feel that way if you want. But I'll know if you've watched the video before posting that comment now. All right, so tomato on here. Another tomato there. Oh, oops. I forgot the most important part. So tomato, season the tomato. You know, I grew up disliking tomatoes. I just thought they were kind of bland, watery things that didn't really add anything. And that's because I'd never had a good tomato. And I'd also don't think I'd ever had a properly seasoned tomato. The tomato needs salt. It doesn't need pepper, but pepper doesn't hurt it. A tomato without salt is like, it's like a bath without bubbles. All right, so tomato, 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 tomato. Let's get our lettuce on there. This is just some red leaf lettuce from the farmer's market. You know, a lot of people dislike iceberg lettuce. I actually really enjoy iceberg lettuce, and I think, you know, for some reason people say iceberg doesn't have as much flavor as romaine, and I think they're flat out wrong. I think romaine is a lot more watery than iceberg. You know, iceberg has a sweetness to it, and it definitely has really good crunch to it. I think iceberg is a great sandwich lettuce, so I have nothing against using iceberg, especially shredded iceberg in a sandwich like this. Okay, there we are. Now, the last final important step, cut into triangles, because it is a scientific fact that triangles taste better. And are we ready to go? Oh boy. Check out that guy. This sandwich is gonna drip. In fact, I might even step directly outside to eat this one so that it drips outside instead of inside. Mmm. Oh my goodness. That is so good. And look at this, guys. Tomatoes are their favorites. Good girl. All right. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, that is the BLT, and I will see you next time.